Good morning. Today's video is about lawnmowers, small engines, and why you are giving up too soon, not trying, or maybe just be lazy about taking care of your equipment. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you a bunch of equipment that I either purchased from Goodwill or got as a street find or picked up off of Craigslist. At one point, I picked up I think it was about 5 engines off of Craigslist from a guy. He had, of the engines, I think 2 were repairable. One was completely destroyed. It had thrown a rod, and one just needed some light repair. And then I had a couple of street finds. Before I get into this, I'm going to talk about how I learned how to fix lawnmowers and other equipment way back in 6th grade, which this would have been in the, I think it was the late 70s, like 79, 80, somewhere in there. Not sure. I'd taken a summer class on small engine repair. It was like a 6-week class or something like that. And the teacher would take you through taking apart small engines, or specifically a certain Briggs Stratton engine. Some of the models which you'll actually see in some pictures of. We would take them apart. He'd explain how they worked, and then we'd put them back together and properly adjust the carburetors. And I liked that class so much that I actually took it a second time. And that was it. From 6th grade on, I pretty much didn't work on any lawnmower equipment or anything like that, other than changing oil, putting gas in them. That was about it. I was pretty lazy. Didn't follow my own advice that I've given in other videos. I was having lots of trouble, and now fast forward and I'm in my 50s. I started watching some videos on YouTube, specifically the ones by Musty One, and he's very good at showing how to fix engines. Just by watching him, I managed to, it's kind of weird. It's almost like just watching him fix engine after engine. It just imprinted in my brain, and I picked it up, and it was almost, and I'd get an engine, I'd start working on it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I've done this before, which I hadn't. Before, I would have had to have taken pictures and wrote stuff down, and I just, worked on them as if I'd always been working on them. So we're going to start out with one of the engines that I worked on when this is one I got off of Craigslist. It's also pretty much exactly the same as the engine that I worked on when I was in 6th grade. The only difference on this one is the size of the gas tank. The one I had in 6th grade was like 2 or 3 times the size. So this this go-kart engine, or horizontal shaft engine, was made in 1964. It's an 81102 -0131-01. And this one was in pretty bad shape. The guy got off of Craigslist. I think he got this from a local municipality, and I don't know what they were using it for, but it apparently got repainted a bunch of times, and it was in pretty bad shape. So based on how much I paid for the lot of the engines, this one cost basically $16. And it needed a new starter cord, which was 99 cents, a new head gasket, $2.79, an air filter, $2.95, a set of points, $2.95. There was some shipping involved in all this, $1.74. New paint, $4. The stripper used to strip it, because this thing was pretty ugly. That was $5.25. I actually ordered some decals, which came from a guy in, I think it was Australia. Uh, a filter cup. Well, the decals were $8.44. Filter cup $3.45. Not really sure what that part that is. And a gas cap was $2.39. So the total that I spent on this one was basically $50.95. You know, for some people that might be a little too much considering the resale value on this. I think a brand new Predator engine from Harbor Freight is like $150. So, you know, I guess if someone wanted a Briggs Stratton, you know, they might want to pay 150 for it. And as you can see from the after pictures how it turned out. I did a video on this, and it runs just fine. I did not do a full restore. I would call this a refurbish. A full restore would have been that I would have taken it completely apart, put new piston rings on it, new bushings and bearings if it needed it, you know, hone the cylinders. But this thing ran fine. The only issue I noted is that for some reason, one of these engines was marked as 2.5 horsepower on the cylinder, but some of the information I had said it was different. It was like a 3 horsepower or something. So I don't know if somebody put the wrong, you know, did some mixing and matching of parts, or if the cover on this, because the model number for the cover is on the cover, and if they took the cover from another engine and put it on this one, then I could have the completely wrong model number. But yeah, this one turned out pretty good. So let's move on to the next one. This one is a Briggs Stratton model 60102-0342-02, and it was made in 1976. This one I ended up parting out because the bushings in it had been wallowed out, and because they're not a replaceable part, to fix this I would have had to have gotten a new case. I mean, the bearing I think on the back could have been replaced, or bushing on the back cover could have been replaced, but the front would have required a whole new piece, and it was beyond economical repair. The crankshaft was also chewed up, and I think, yeah, I think that might have been it. I'm not really sure. Yeah, the connecting rod was also bad on this. So basically, I threw out the case, but kept the cylinder head, the carburetor, air filter, gas tank, cover, all that stuff, the flywheel, the coil, everything else on it was good. It's just the case itself was, and the crankshaft and connecting rod were bad, but the cylinder was good. I'm sorry, the piston was good. So this one was also a Briggs & Stratton. It was made in 1993. It's a model 90102-0116-01. This was also part of the stuff I got off of Craigslist, so it cost $16. And it came off of a McLean reel mower, which I also got it was on the reel mower, but the reel mower was in terrible shape, just beat to heck and rusty, and to fix it would have probably cost more than buying, or would have cost more than anyone would want to pay if I'd fixed it up. However, the engine itself was fine, and just needed a new head gasket, paint, starter rope, and so I fixed this one for $26.29. So as you can see from this after picture, it's got a two-tone paint job, which this was painted during the plague, and I had to paint with whatever I paint I had with me. It's a 3 horsepower engine, and also I think I may have done a video about this one too. But oh, and there was a missing ball in the starter clutch. I had to replace the rewind reel, which I used parts from one of the other, from that engine I parted out, and needed a new fuel tank gasket, and adjusted the carburetor. And I think that was it. This is another McLean. This is an Edger. I did a video about this one. It's 1993. The McLean part number or model number was 801-3.5 RP. This is a very expensive piece of equipment when it's new. It's more than $200. I think some of these are $300 or $400 or $600. I don't know. Put a price in here. Look it up. This thing was hardly used. I picked it up at a Goodwill for $30 after discount. And the only thing it really needed was the carb. I needed a carb kit and a good cleaning of the carb. The fuel tank had a bunch of debris in it. New air filters. The carb kit was $769. The air filters were a bit pricey. They were $14.81, and it needed a new throttle and throttle cable, which was very difficult to find because the original throttle cable for this, there was a lot of confusion online as to which one I needed. The one that was on it was plastic, and it was just garbage. So I found, after much searching, I found a much better one. And you can see how it turned out in this after picture. But I found a much better one, and I sold this one. I've actually sold this one. I sold it on eBay for $160. So it cost me $64.98 total, and sold it on eBay for $160. Oh, and although I left it on, the edging blade is actually the wrong blade. This mower was, I did a video on this one. This mower, I kind of went a little overboard restoring it or refurbishing it. It was in pretty bad shape. I don't know if you can see towards the back of the deck is quite corroded. The aluminum, this has an aluminum deck, and it had been left out in the sun and exposed to the rain, and that aluminum had corroded. There's a whole video on this, but this thing was a lot of work. So I got it. Also, I think it was Goodwill, $18.75 after discount. The engine is a model Briggs Stratton 12H802-1767-E1. It needed a carb kit, which was $7.19. Needed a new pull cord, which was $5.42. I actually went through a lot of trouble to find the nearest correct color paint as I could. You can buy the actual Toro paint, but they want some ridiculous amount of money, and I don't remember what that is. But I chose Rust-Oleum's Apple Red was pretty close, and that was $5. And Rust-Oleum's Gray Primer, $6.99, tax. I purchased the mulch plate. What you see on the before picture is the bagging plate. You can hook up a bag to this, and in the after picture, you'll see that there is I put the mulch plate on it. That was $22.86. I had to get a new needle seat for the carburetor, and because it leaked when you it wouldn't shut the gas off when the float went up, and a new carburetor, which is $9.18. So this took a lot of work, But as you can see in the after picture, it looks really nice. Cost a total of $77 to fix up, and I sold it on eBay for $120. So I'll just read what I did. I keep notes of what I do to fix, and I disassembled the deck completely, drained the oil, removed engine from deck, removed corrosion, tapped new holes where bolts had broke, removed the bagger mount, installed cover plate, primed and painted deck, repaired mulcher fiberglass on the underside. I used JB Weld and fiberglass cloth. Painted the mower handle lower support, drilled holes for cotter keys on studs on handle, used evapor-rust on rusty parts, repainted blade and mounts, replaced carbs, touched up paint on engine, replaced starter pull cord, new air filter, cleaned the spark plugs and check gap, torqued spark plug, installed engine, torqued the bolts properly, sharpened the blade, torqued the blade bolt, new oil, reassembled the mower, ran engine until it stopped smoking. So, like I said, but yeah, look really nice. So this is a Tecumseh engine. I only have a before picture because I didn't do anything to it. I didn't paint it or do anything more than maybe clean a little dust off of it. This one I think is made in 1998. I really am not sure because of trying to, the date codes on it are a little hard to understand. This was part of the Craigslist purchase, so it cost me $16. I had to replace the carburetor, mostly because a spring had broken, and I've done a video on this one. A new carb was $9.95. It's just insane how cheap you can get part for these engines nowadays. And you know, the weird thing about it was that the carburetor I got that was a replacement was better than the original. It had actual brass fittings on it where the original had cast aluminum for where you connected the fuel lines up and stuff. Ordered a primer bulb, which was $266, and a new air filter, which was $358. And I also had to calibrate the governor. At some point I think I want to either turn this into a generator, or I could actually use it as a replacement for one of my generators. I have a generator with this exact engine on it. This is one of my more recent acquisitions. My brother pulled this from a trash pile out in front of someone's house. The complaint was that it just suddenly stopped working. This is utter garbage. Lawnmowers generally don't just suddenly stop working. I mean, technically, sure, but this one, it's made in 2008. It has an engine on it. It's a 10T502-1022B1. It's made by Weedeater, but it's still a Briggs Stratton engine. I mean, all these lawnmowers are pretty much the same. You know, you're just paying for a name most of the time, and a lot of times you're buying MTD, because MTD owns a lot of these names nowadays. I just finished working on this one. I did not do a video because there's hundreds of videos on YouTube of people fixing lawnmower. But the person he actually talked to the guy who had put it on the street, and the guy said that it just suddenly stopped working. Well, okay, I'll tell you why it stopped working. Number one, the guy had left it outside, like just exposed to the elements. And one of the things I found is that the control cable, you know how you have to squeeze that handle and that removes a brake and ungrounds the coil so the engine will run. Well, they've got a plastic sheath around the cable, and if you leave them out in the sun for even a week, they will start to shrink, and they can become very difficult to pull. In this case, I could not pull that cable through its sheath. Let's see. Number two, it was missing a pole handle, and he had apparently just attached a long piece of rope, huge, thick, cheap rope to the end of the pull cord. The carburetor, the fuel tank had really old gasoline in it. The carburetor was very dirty. The blade was so dull, it was practically flat. So here's the after picture. It took me a couple of days of working on this to get it to fix it. I ordered parts off of eBay. It took longer to wait for the parts than it did to actually fix it. I replaced the pole handle. Those were $3.24. A new length of cord, which was $1. I ordered a carburetor because it was cheaper to order a carburetor than it was to order a carburetor kit. It was $12.34. The carburetor kit came with a set of little tiny brushes, 2 primer bulbs, the gaskets you need, the screws that hold the carburetor in. I mean, it's a deal. I mean, and an air filter. Came with an air filter. Some of them even came with a new spark plug, all for like $13. I ordered a control cable, which, even though I had the correct part number, for some reason it didn't work right, so I had to drill a hole in the handle, but it's fine. Cleaned and painted the engine and used rust reformer on the underside. The underside of the deck was very rusty. It hadn't rusted through, but it was very rusty. And so this was, like I said, it was a street find. Got it for free. $25.24, and a little bit of effort to fix this thing. I mean, if the guy who had it, he could have just, in all reality, he could have just rinsed out the fuel tank, put a new control cable on it, and put a new handle on the pole cord, and I think it would have worked. I mean, he could have got this working for $12. Minimum $12. Didn't have to paint it or anything. Just do a little bit of cleaning. Oh, okay, and it needed a new air filter, which if you go to Ace Hardware, they want a ridiculous amount of money for one. It's like $8. So, people don't try. So, this mower was another example of someone who just gave up too easily. And also they had abused the heck out of the thing. This mower had been left out in the sun, which is why it looks like it does. This thing was made in 2011. It's a Briggs Stratton 126T02-0675-B2. The mower itself was made by MTD. And I picked this thing up from a Goodwill for $4.49 after discount. The only things it had wrong was it needed a control cable and it had water in the fuel. It had been left out for too long, and condensation or water somehow had gotten into the fuel tank and it wouldn't start. And of course, they had put a nail, they had rigged it with a nail to hold the brake off. So I don't know how they were turning the thing off. Anyways, as you can see in this after picture, I spent $9 for a control cable, $7.19 I bought a carburetor kit, which I didn't actually use because the carburetor just needed to be cleaned, and a new air filter, which was $2.63, and changed the oil, cost $2. So total cost to me $18.12. For $18.12, this thing was made, could be fixed. And whoever owned it just was like, oh, it doesn't start. I'll just go out and spend $200 on a new lawnmower. So I sold this on eBay for $70. And here's a list of exactly what I did. Cleaned the engine, painted the underside of the metal cooling shroud, painted the gas tank, drained the gas tank and water, scrubbed off top plastic engine cover, changed oil, sharpened blade, replaced air filter, replaced brake cable, cleaned check gap and torque spark plug, cylinder looked dirty. But that was it. I mean, come on. Just a little bit of effort, people. Okay, this is the last mower in the list here. This was made in 2014. It's a Briggs Stratton 09P702-0145-F1. This was a street find. It was left out in front of the house, a couple doors down from me. The guy who left it out there, I think, does lawn maintenance of some kind. Once again, this is a prime example of just neglect and abuse and just not even trying. The most expensive thing to fix on this was the gas tank. Somebody, the neighbor, had just stripped the cap. He totally stripped the filler neck. So in order to fix that, I had to order a new gas tank. That was $35.05, which that was cheap. That was the best I could find. At most places that had new ones wanted like twice that much. Needed a new air filter. The air filter on this thing, I don't even know how it was running. It was just so caked with dirt. The pole handle had been chewed on by a dog, so I had to replace that. That was $3.24. The pole cord was just in terrible shape. That was $1. The blade was all rusty and dull, and I just happened to have a new blade that I'd found at a Goodwill. That was $7.49, and once again, the control cable was frozen up, and it was held on by a hose clamp, which actually this picture you see is the before. I don't have an after picture. This was a $230 lawnmower that I fixed for $58.99. And in all reality, I'm trying to think what this thing, it really just needed a new pole cord and an air filter. I'm sorry, just needed a handle, control cable, and an air filter would have actually fixed this. You could have continued to use the gas tank. The cap just wouldn't have fit well. Yeah, for $58.99, it works great. Oh, and it has built-in, it's a newer engine, and it's got the auto choke on it, so it only takes like 2, maybe 3 pulls max to ever start it when it's cold. And I gave this to my brother. He had a lawnmower that he was using that I'd given to him previously. That and the Street Find one that I mentioned earlier, we traded for this one. So anyways, the point of all this is that, you know, most lawnmower equipment, you know, if it stops working, it just takes a little effort. You don't give up. You know, if it's not starting, there's a reason for it, and you don't need to go and, you know, spend hundreds of dollars. You don't even need to take it in. Anybody can fix this stuff. Watch a couple videos on YouTube, order the parts off eBay, and replace them. They don't even, a lot of these new engines don't even require adjusting the carburetor. You just put a new one on, and that's it. It's adjusted. It just works. You know, don't leave your lawnmower out in the sun. Don't leave your lawnmower exposed to the rain. Don't leave it outside. Empty the fuel, the gas out of it in the wintertime and run it till it's empty. Change the oil. I mean, you know, that's it, and your equipment will last forever. Anyways, thanks for watching.